Hello, everyone. We're about to get started in a few minutes, but I wanted to welcome everyone to our second KIPP Conversations, which is our Zoom tutorial. Today we have Adam Totman from our tech team who will be presenting. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. I'll play some music. I have muted everyone, but if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and then I will get back to you. So we'll just get started in a couple minutes. And so Adam, let's wait about 2 more minutes and then get started.
Still looking at a Cat 3 landfall sometime.
Let's see. All right, everyone. Once again, my name is Brandon Best. I am the Director of Engagement here at KIPP DC. Really excited for you all to be here with us for our second KIPP conversation. Today we have Adam Totman from the tech team who is going to lead our Zoom tutorial. So Adam, I will let you take it away. I ask that everyone remains on mute. If you have a question, simply put it in the chat and we will get back to you as soon as possible. That really just sounded like a voicemail. But anyway, Adam will kick us off. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. And welcome, everyone. I am Adam Totman. As Brandon said, I work on the technology team at KIPP headquarters. But before that, I actually was a teacher at Heights Academy. I taught second grade there for 5 years, I think. Sometimes I forget. So I've been with KIPP for a while. Super proud to work here. Maybe some of my old students' parents are in here. I hope so. If so, hi guys. Wish we were doing this in person, but we're gonna roll with it here. So let me go ahead and move forward here. So this is our agenda tonight. I'll let you guys kind of read through this here. But as Brandon said, you guys can feel free to post messages in the chat. Any questions that come up as I'm presenting, feel free to put them in the chat. I will try to monitor that and respond to them as they come in. Or Brandon, you could, I guess, shout them out for me and I can answer them that way. But I will say that this agenda right here will definitely not take us the full time here. So we'll have plenty of time. Point number 7 here, we'll have plenty of time for question and answer at the end. So you can ask in the middle through the chat any questions, or you can hold them to the end. But we're going to start by talking about what is Zoom, how our students use Zoom, how they join meetings, and then how do students control Zoom. So these first 4 points here, this will probably feel like review for people who have been using Zoom. It would probably feel like review for your kids as well, especially if they've been with KIPP DC and they used Zoom in the spring when we transitioned to remote learning. So I just say that to say, bear with me. It's going to be very basic here at the beginning, just trying to get everyone up to speed so everybody feels equally comfortable with Zoom. But then when we get to point number 5 here for best practices, we'll get into some more, some tips and tricks of the trade. All right. So what is Zoom? Zoom is a video conferencing service. And I should just preface this and say, like, it feels awkward to train someone on Zoom when we're currently on Zoom. So like I said, bear with me. You guys got into this meeting. You're watching me. You're hearing me right now. So you're probably like, okay, cool, we get it. But we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And there are some slightly different things for students because students are using Chromebooks. So I'll kind of show the differences and stuff that will be new there. But as it says, sorry, right here, Zoom is kind of like FaceTime, like a FaceTime call on an iPhone, but with more people. And so that's kind of our virtual classroom. Students are not asked to create their own Zoom accounts. They don't need them. So I say that to say that teachers have their Zoom accounts and students join the Zoom meetings. As you know, if your students have been attending school today or yesterday, you probably already saw that. But that doesn't mean that students need to go in and create a Zoom account or anything like that. I'll show in a couple slides here, like they basically open up their Chromebook, click a couple things, and they're into the teacher's meeting, so they don't need to be creating their own accounts. Teachers will use Zoom in slightly different ways. So I'm going to try to make my presentation as general that will apply to students in different grades, in different subjects, but just note that one teacher might use Zoom in a slightly different way than another teacher, but either way, it will all be happening in Zoom. Teachers are going to provide details and expectations for their Zoom meetings, which they likely have already. By details and expectations, I mean teachers are providing a schedule for when students are expected to join Zoom, but they're also giving you guys expectations for, like, you know, during my Zoom meetings, I, the teacher, expect my students to be sitting up with their camera on mute, off mute, certain things like that will be noted by the teacher. So just make sure your students kind of attentively following and meeting those expectations. And then this last point here, students, as much as possible, pretty much all the time, should be using their KIPP supplied Chromebooks for Zoom. Like I said, Zoom is, you don't need an account or anything for Zoom. So clearly a student could access a Zoom meeting on an iPhone or on a parent's computer or anything like that. And so in rare circumstances when you need to do that, that's certainly an option. But the way our teachers are expecting our students to be in Zoom is through the Chromebook, and Zoom works in a slightly unique way in the Chromebook. So students should really be using the Chromebooks we supplied to access Zoom. All right. So here's the student-facing part. This is how students would join a Zoom meeting. I believe I have 9 steps here, but it's super simple. Each of these steps is basically just a click of the mouse. But we're going to go through from point 1 through point 9 here. So as I said, teachers will provide a meeting schedule. So they'll supply that to you guys so you know when students are expected to join a Zoom meeting. And then when it's time to join the Zoom meeting, these 9 steps are how a student would do so. So they would power on and log into the Chromebook, and then they would go to Clever. When you open the Chromebook and you log in, Clever should actually be the homepage. So point 2 shouldn't really involve anything. Clever should pop up right away for your student. But if not, if they're already on the computer and they're not in Clever, they have a Google Chrome icon in the bottom middle of their screen, and if they click that, it takes them to Clever. Clever is kind of like our one-stop shop for all of our apps, so that's where students, you know, they go to Clever when they're being asked to use different apps like STMath or Lexia or just different programs like that. But they also go to Clever when it's time for them to join a Zoom meeting. So they go to Clever, and it will look like this on a student's computer, this picture you see here. And if the student has multiple teacher pages, so like in this picture, you can see C. Coleman's page, Mr. Robinson's page, and N. Ford's page. Clearly, this student has 3 different teachers they're expected to meet with. So if it's, you know, at 9 a.m., you're supposed to meet with Mr. Robinson, then at 9 a.m. the student would go to Clever and they would click Mr. Robinson's page right there. And then after they do that, we're here on point 4. They are going to see this screen. So they're here in, sorry, let me go back. They actually clicked on Coleman's page, not Robinson's page. So they clicked on Ms. Coleman's page. And now they're seeing down here where it says newly added, they see Ms. Coleman's Zoom. So that's where they need to click when it's time for them to get into Zoom. So again, you're going to the correct teacher page of who the student's expected to meet with. And then you click that little icon right there, which will take you into Zoom. Once they click that icon, this will launch the Zoom app on their Chromebooks, and it will prompt them to enter their name. The screen looks like here where it says student name. That's what students will see. It's super important here to note that students need to enter their exact first and last name and then click join. And the reason why I say that's super important is because we've actually asked teachers to only admit people into their classes that they recognize. So if there's a student named Joe Smith in the class, and when the student gets here, they type in like Joey S., the teacher might not admit that student because for all the teacher knows, like that's some random person, they don't know who they are. So it's super important to, as much as possible, make sure students are typing their exact first and last name. If there's a typo or if something isn't capitalized or anything like that, it's totally okay. Like the teachers will be able to like decipher it, but just make sure students aren't using like nicknames or anything that a teacher wouldn't recognize there. So after they enter their name, they click join. The majority of our Zoom meetings do not, with students don't have passwords, but if they do have a password, you're gonna have this step 6 here. If the meeting doesn't have a password, like you're gonna skip right ahead to number 7. But if it does have a password, again, that is set by the teacher, so the teacher will have communicated that to you. So you would enter whatever passcode the teacher gave you, and you would click join. Again, if there's no passcode, you won't see this screen, and you won't need a passcode. After you click join right there, you get to step 7 here where it says, if you see a video preview screen, click join with video. So the arrow is pointing where you would click right there to join with a video. And then point 8 here is you'll see a waiting room screen until the teacher admits you. No action needed on this screen. So for those of you that try to jump into this meeting today before 6:30, you guys probably saw this screen on your end. Students will see that for a second. They don't need to do anything there. It'll just hold there for a second. And then the teacher will admit them to the meeting, which is point 9 here. When the teacher admits them to the meeting, which is something the teacher does, the student doesn't need to do anything there. The student's screen will change, so they won't see this waiting room anymore, and they will see their teacher, probably not doing crazy calculations like this, maybe, I guess, for high school students, but they should see their teacher at that point, and then you're in the meeting and you can kind of carry on with Zoom. So it's 9 steps, it's kind of a lot of steps, but they're really designed to be super simple steps, and for students who have been logging in today or yesterday, they've probably already memorized this, but wanted to provide that there. All right, so this next section I'm going to talk about is how students control Zoom, or what they actually do in a Zoom meeting. So once they get into the meeting, this is a picture of what Zoom looks like on the Chromebook. Again, in a real class, it wouldn't just say teacher here, you'd probably see the teacher and they'd be talking to you. But on the student's end, they have these controls across the bottom of the screen. So you can see like the little green one there where it says leave meeting to the right. All of these, that's like the bottom bar of the screen. That's where students are going to control Zoom. And I'll talk through what each of those controls does. And you guys in this meeting as well will probably see those controls. All right. The first important control you'll see there, and I believe, let me just go back and confirm. Yeah, all the way in the bottom left here is the microphone symbol. And it says mute underneath it like this. So again, if you click that, it will put a red slash through it, and that will show you that you're muted. So even if you're screaming into your computer, nobody could hear you, you're muted at that point. But then if you were to click it again to unmute yourself. So there's no red slash. It looks just like this. You're unmuted, so you can be talking and like anybody in the meeting can hear you. This is a big one for teachers, and especially it's an important thing to learn for our younger students, and probably a difficult and confusing thing to learn because, you know, in school you normally raise your hand and then you can start talking, whereas in these Zoom meetings our students are really flicking mute on and off back and forth when they're expected to talk or not talk. So again, this is in the bottom left of the Zoom screen. You just click there to mute or unmute yourself. Directly next to that is a start stop video button. What this does is, I think a better term for it would be like start stop FaceTime camera, because really it's just controlling the camera on the student screen. So when it's stop video, when there's the red slash through it like this, that means the student's camera is not on. So the teacher wouldn't be able to see you at that point. Most of our teachers are expecting students to have their cameras on. So you usually want to, at this point, you would want to click that so there's no red slash through it, and so you can have your camera on. Another control at the bottom of the screen, and you guys, again, you can see this on your end right now, is the chat button. So students can click there, and that will open up the chat box for the meeting. So I've put a little picture example here of how a chat might be used. We have the teacher saying, "Good morning, class. For your warm-up, please send me a chat message, skip counting by fives." And then a student chimed in here and said 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then the teacher said, "Great job." This is kind of I guess this is one way that a chat might look for students. Again, this kind of varies depending on the grade and depending on the teacher. Some teachers might say like, "All right, I want to know what the main idea of this story is. Say it in the chat." Students would then click chat. There's a little space for them to type their message, and they can press enter or press send, and it will send the message. So again, this will kind of vary by teacher and by grade. But for teachers that are asking students to use chat, they'll see a chat, students will see a chat button, they click it, they can access the whole chat here and send messages. I think we just have one more control here, and that's share screen. Sharing your screen shows everybody in the meeting what you are seeing on your computer. So I'm sharing my screen right now, and I have a PowerPoint open, so you guys are all seeing this on your end. Share screen is mainly going to be used by our teachers. So normally, you know, a teacher might have a PowerPoint for their math lesson, or they might just want to like show a picture of something to students. Teachers will usually share the screen, and students will just see it. There's nothing a student needs to do. They'll just, all of a sudden, instead of seeing their teacher's face, they'll see something that's on the teacher's screen. For some of our older students, teachers might also ask students to share. So it might be, hey, the class is struggling with number 3 on our math program. Joey, can you share your screen so everyone can see what you're doing? Again, that won't be the normal case. I'd say normally teachers will be the ones sharing, but if a teacher does ask a student to share their screen, this is how a student would do that. They would click the share screen button. They're then gonna click desktop, which will pull up everything on their desktop. The teacher and everybody in the meeting will be able to see it. You'll get this little message here that shows you that you're screen sharing, and then the student could click stop share, and then that will go away. I'm gonna pause for a question. Yes, annotate feature. Great question. Our annotate feature, and this is going to be a little, I unfortunately can't show the full annotating thing right now because I've actually disabled it for you guys to make sure that like sometimes things get accidentally, like little dots and things appear on the screen. But I can show you a little bit here. So when somebody is screen sharing, towards the top of the screen, there should be an annotate button there for students. I can see it on my end right now, and that pulls up like, it's kind of like a little artist's toolbox of the different things you can have. So like you can draw or you can type, and that will appear on the screen for everybody. So I'll do an example one right here. So that's how I can annotate a message, but I can also like draw a line, do things like that. I can put like little stamps here. And then luckily there is an option for me to clear everything so it disappears and doesn't stay forever. For students and teachers, like teachers will ask students when they expect them to annotate. So they'll say like, okay, I'm gonna be showing a PowerPoint. I expect you guys to like type messages here and not. But certain teachers who don't use annotating at all will likely have annotating disabled, and students wouldn't have to worry about that. I'm just gonna clear those drawings. Oh, they're still appearing. Okay. All right. Just gonna make sure I've got all the messages here. Okay. Cool. All right, so here is the best practices. That was like kind of all the basics. That's basically all a student would need to know to get into Zoom, or a parent would need to know to support students getting into Zoom. But this next slide here, and this is something we can also talk about in the question and answer section in a couple minutes, is just some really basic best practices. I only chose 4 so I could fit them nicely onto the screen here. I'm sure we could generate a way bigger list of best practices. But first, it's important to check your schedule and make sure you know when you're expected to be on Zoom. You know, I will give you guys the family support email address in a second, so you guys can, for any questions about Zoom, you can send them to us. But something like a schedule, I want to note, like that's something that teachers would have. So if you don't know when your student is expected to be on Zoom, or your student doesn't know, make sure you just check in with the teacher, and they'll be able to tell you like, hey, they just need to click my Zoom link at 2 p.m. or something like that. Wear school appropriate clothing. I know students have been doing this already, so I'm just gonna skip ahead to that one. Wear headphones as much as possible. We do have, you know, we've been supplying headphones, but I know students probably also have headphones at home. Zoom is better for the student, I would say, when they have headphones in. I have headphones in right now. For one, it allows me like to focus on everything happening in the meeting and not like any noises. Like when I hear, I mean, I get easily distracted when I hear dogs barking outside. I immediately like turn over. And so, not that headphones will eliminate that, but I think like just the idea of having headphones kind of gives students the idea that they are in Zoom like with their teacher, and they're hearing Zoom with their teacher, and they're not hearing outside things. And also I'd say it's helpful for other people in the home who don't necessarily want to hear the teacher all day. So headphones will be super helpful. And then this last point, find a quiet space in the home. Students should, as best as possible, be kind of sitting up and attentive. We know that looks different for everybody. So, you know, I'm definitely not gonna prescribe one way that a student's workspace should look, but I just want to, you know, I'd say make it as consistent as possible would be great. So students know like, this is where I go for Zoom. And it's a place where it will be easy for them to communicate, I guess. My last slide here is just about the different support options we have. So if you have any questions or concerns about Zoom, we do have, so there's a Chromebook guide and a Chromebook walkthrough video. Those are on our KIPP website. The link is here. I will also post that in the chat in a second. But once you get to this page on the KIPP website, you'll see a bunch of links there, but one of them says Chromebook guide and one of them says Chromebook walkthrough video. So if you click there, you'll be able to see, I guess, a little more, basically the same stuff I've showed you today, but you know, you'll be able to watch the video with a student, or, you know, watch it later on if you forget any of this. All of that stuff will live on our website. Your teacher can also be helpful. I know teachers are definitely not necessarily Zoom experts, but they can be certainly helpful if, for little issues like I don't know the schedule, or you know, it was a little hard. Like you can also, like, if there's something about the way the teacher is presenting over Zoom that's challenging for you, I'm sure our teachers are open to feedback and would say like, oh, you know, if you say, hey, like, my student was really paying attention, you were a little tough to hear, like it was a little quiet. that's a good thing to talk to your teacher about Zoom with, and I'm sure they would adjust based on any feedback they get. And then the last resource we have here is our family support at kippdc.org. That is our family support email address. So if you guys send an email there, I would say try to make it as specific as possible. So if we just get an email that says like Chromebook broken, we'll support you. Like we'll definitely get anybody the help we need, no matter what the email we receive looks like. But that process will be a lot faster if you say like the student's name, which school they attend, and like a description of what the issue is. So that way we can quickly put you in the right, in contact with the right person who can support you with Zoom. That was all I had. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to show you one more thing before we just jump to questions. I talked about Clever. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And let's just, I talked about Clever and how that will look for students. So here on my screen, you're seeing an example of what a Clever page would look like on the Chromebook. They have their different apps they would use in Clever. So things like Nearpod and Epic, and these are the different programs students use. But mine looks a little different because I'm not assigned to a teacher, but for students, they should also see here their different teacher pages. It will either be above what you see here or below it, but it will be on this page, and it will show a list of their teachers. Like I said, you click the teachers page, then you click Zoom, and then you're in the meeting. All right. Yeah, that's all I had. Like I said, it was a little short and sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and check the chat here, but I guess any other questions that haven't been asked, please feel free to put them in the chat. And like I said, those resources I showed on the last slide will be helpful for you. Family support at kippdc.org. We can address any Zoom questions you have.
Yeah.
Just checking it's here.
I've also enabled the function to allow you all to take your mute off. So if you want to just go ahead and ask a question, you can feel free to do so as well. All right, well, if that's it, we have, I'll give us a couple more minutes, but just a reminder that we have food delivery on the 26th, which is tomorrow at 6:30. We have Clever in the Family Portal on the 1st, as well as Remind in Google on the 9th, and then Remind in Seesaw on the 10th. So if you want to check out some of those sessions, know that those are coming up. Once again, please feel free to email familysupport@kippdc.org if you have any other questions, and we will get to you as soon as we can. If not, then by all means, enjoy the rest of your night.
I was muted. Thanks, everyone.
All right, take care, everyone.